Hi, I'm Scott Noon. I'm the CEO of Audio Advice. After over a year of anxious anticipation, I get to show you Anthem's flagship AVM90 surround sound processor. Anthem is one of our favorite home theater brands at Audio Advice because their products just sound so good for the money, and Anthem puts all of their emphasis on giving you the best possible sound and home theater experience. By way of perspective, I've had both the AVM60 and AVM70 in my own system, along with most of the top-rated processors in the country. I've been banging on this thing round the clock, and frankly, I'm super excited to show you how amazing this processor is. We were lucky enough to be part of the Anthem beta team to test out and have an advanced look at their new products launched in late 2020. Due to a fire at a parts supplier for some of the components in the AVM90, it was delayed. This delay had a silver lining as Anthem was able to come up with a handful of improvements to make it even better than they originally envisioned. It's been worth the wait, I assure you. Like the earlier released AVM70, the AVM90 has 15 channels of preamp outputs available with either regular RCA or balanced audio connections. So this gives you incredible flexibility to add wides between your front speakers and side speakers, and or any mixture of up to 6 Atmos channels. So they both have got the channel capability to handle super high performance systems. However, the AVM90 adds even more with the addition of 4 discrete subwoofer outputs. For those of you who are into high performance, you know that bass management is one of the most important parts of nailing a theater, and the AVM90 has done it. I'm going to walk you through an overview of the AVM90, give you my perspective after having run it through its paces in my own theater, and then cover how it compares to the AVM70 for those of you deciding which to buy. Now, let's start with a few basic features beyond the standard surround sound processing. First, the streaming platform in the AVM90 includes Chromecast, AirPlay 2, Bluetooth, Spotify Connect, and an upcoming update will add Roon. Additionally, it has a built-in moving magnet phono preamp. This is no afterthought either, as the engineers spent some serious time developing a great moving magnet phono stage. What this means is that the AVM90 is not only a terrific surround sound processor, but also can serve as an amazing preamp for your music system. In fact, as Apple, Tidal, and Amazon roll out music and Atmos, having a surround sound processor double as your music system makes total sense. If you've not experienced Atmos music yet, you're in for a treat. Check out our video listing the top 10 Dolby Atmos songs and then play them through your Atmos theater, and you will have a whole new appreciation for great music. Moving on, the AVM90 has decoding for Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and IMAX Enhanced. Dolby Atmos is the most widely adopted and has a clear guidance on where to place your speakers. IMAX Enhanced uses DTS, which can adapt to various speaker layouts. The great news is no matter how that new movie was mastered or old classic one was remastered, the AVM90 has you totally covered no matter how the soundtrack was produced. And for those of you using a TV capable of Dolby Vision, you will be pleased to know the AVM90 supports Dolby Vision as well. The AVM90 comes with HDMI 2.1 full 8K video capabilities built in with HDCP 2.3. There's no need to get stuck in the specs. This is the latest and greatest HDMI capability, enables full 8K at 60 Hz and 4K at 120 Hz. So if you're a gamer with the latest consoles, this is the HDMI board you want for the best resolution and refresh rate pass-through. You can connect all of your sources, including 8K sources, directly through the AVM90 and then connect the HDMI out to your television or projector. The AVM90 also has eARC, so you could also use the sources on your television and have it send fully uncompressed object-based surround audio signal back to the AVM90 for processing. On the input side, you get 7 dedicated HDMI inputs, 3 Toslink digital, 2 coax digital, 4 analog, plus the moving magnet phono preamp. Like the AVM70, the AVM90 also has Zone 2 audio and HDMI outputs. So let's take a quick look at the web interface that you use to set up the Anthem. I'll just come right out and say that the web interface that is on the AVM90 and now on all of the Anthem products is flat out best in class. It is laid out super intuitively, and you can either set it up quickly with a few simple button clicks, or you can dive deep and do lots of cool things that I cover in our setup guide that we send to all purchasers. I won't go through every single thing you can do here, but if you're an expert installer or a do-it-yourselfer who loves to go the extra mile, it has all the bells and whistles you could want. To set up the processor, you can either connect it wirelessly or wired. Basically, you plug it in and then connect an Ethernet cable and you're good to go, or you will use the now common Google Home or use Apple AirPlay to set it up wirelessly. Then you look up the IP address of your processor, which you can find by selecting the network display, and you immediately have full access to every single part of the setup right from your laptop. This also means you can sit in your primary listening position and quickly fine-tune the settings to really dial in the audio if you wish. For those of you who have your processor in a rack that does not have easy line of sight from your primary listening position, being able to make adjustments wirelessly from your laptop is a huge benefit versus most systems that require direct connection to the processor for calibration and setup. Our installation and calibration teams love this capability. You can see here on the general setup page that you can set up your muting however you want, and you can even set the brightness to dim after a period of time, which is the default you'll want to keep if your processor is visible while watching movies. Maybe your Anthem is hidden in a rack, so you can have the information displayed on screen or turn it off if you don't want overlays when you change volume. Obviously, you also have full CEC controls for talking to your other equipment. The AVM90 has all of the height options you want, including front, middle, and back-end ceiling, as well as Dolby Heights for a total of 6 height channels. Another part I like about the Anthem is the fact it has 4 profiles built into the software. 90% of luxury home theater owners will never use this, but the 10% of hardcore users like myself love this feature. Let me show you how I have used it in my system. I have a Kaleidoscope, Roku, Apple TV, and NVIDIA Shield as my sources. FYI, that we're going to release a video talking about the pros and cons of these streaming devices and give you our recommendation on which is right for which people. If you're interested in seeing this or other great home theater content, now is the time to click like and then click subscribe. If you then push the notification button, it will notify you when we release the content. So let's talk about my profiles. You will see that I've created 4 different profiles. The first is what I call my personal profile. This has all the speakers running, but was calibrated tightly around my primary listening seat where I watch by myself or with my wife. The second profile is called group. This profile uses all the speakers, but I spread the microphone calibration spots across a larger group of seats. This is used when we have friends over and we're watching shows or sports. The third profile is called stereo and uses just my left and right speakers and is used for just enjoying music. It's important to make a distinction here that this is way better than choosing stereo on a normal surround sound processor. The reason is that when you run the Arc Genesis room calibration software, you set up this profile to have just your left and right speakers playing. So this means that it calibrates the system knowing that it's just these 2 speakers. So it's as if you calibrated around a high performance 2-channel system. My final profile is called stereo sub. This profile is the same as the stereo profile, but also includes my 2 front subs that are perfectly in line with my left and right speakers. Honestly, I set this one up mainly just to compare audio performance of the system using my left and right versus the Anthem room correction bass management layering in the subs. Even though I have full range front speakers, I'll save you the time and tell you that the bass management rocks. So just leave your subs in your 2-channel profile if you do it. Another great example is that most home theater products lock you into using an HDMI input only once. Not so with Anthem. You can create up to 30 inputs using any combination you wish. Let me explain what I mean here. Many of you won't use this capability, but it's worth watching for 1 minute to understand what you can do with this system. When you create an input in the Anthem setup, you can assign any HDMI video input, and you can use that same input for the audio or choose another audio source such as Bluetooth or streaming music. So let's look at my system as an example. I have 2 different inputs created from my Kaleidoscope. One is just a normal input with the personal profile we discussed earlier that I use when it's just me there watching a movie. The second input uses the group profile, so it's used for when my family or friends are watching a movie together and I want the best performance across a larger set of seats. You'll see here that the only thing that has changed in the input is the profile. You'll see that I've created a Spotify Connect input that also uses the stereo sub profile that just uses my front, left, and right in the subs. I also have a Spotify surround input that is the same but uses the group profile and Anthem music processing. This is ideal for parties. Another example you see here is an input called Sport Radio. What I did is to create a second input for my Apple TV for when I'm watching sports on YouTube TV, but I changed one thing. Instead of telling the audio to come from the HDMI from the Apple TV, I changed it to streaming radio so I can hear a local radio broadcaster for my team talking while I watch the national game. I have a final input called Roku Night. This looks just like the Roku input, but has Dolby post-processing set to night, which adjusts the sound to reduce waking other people up in the home at night. Pretty cool. You could also have a source where you listen to streaming music in the background while simultaneously watching the stock reports or a news feed from cable. Also, as the video and audio quality of our systems improve, you will increasingly notice if your lip sync is off. Lip sync problems usually occur when the audio arrives ahead of the video. You see this most often with projectors or when there's a substantial amount of video processing slowing down the video. What's super cool about the AVM90 and all the new Anthems actually is you can assign a different lip sync for each input with an adjustment range from 0 to 500 milliseconds, which is a very wide range compared to some other products. If you're using a home theater with a separate video processor after your AVM90, such as the MAD-VR that's in my system, you'll really need this as video processors add a delay to the video of around 200 to 250 milliseconds, and that's before any delay caused by your projector or other display device. In the setup tips and tricks that we send to everyone who purchases their surround sound processor from AudioAdvice, we include a link to our lip sync video that will help you dial it in perfectly for each of your sources, as they can all be slightly different. We also include links to our other calibration videos that our installation teams use so you can nail your brightness, contrast settings, and everything else audio and video related. Now, let's move on to Arc Genesis, which is honestly one of the biggest reasons we love Anthem gear. The room correction they developed is simply one of the best on the market. I personally love it. As you know, the room itself has a tremendous impact on the ultimate sound of your system. The problem is every room will cause certain frequencies to be loud and others to be canceled out. Anthem Room Correction takes measurements of the room and smooths out the response. We've been beta testing the new version that launched concurrently with the AVM90 and really love its ease of use and new capabilities. Obviously, there are little bugs here and there in the beta version, which is to be expected, but do not let that deter you. This software is terrific and keeps improving over time. For most people watching this video, by the time you get your AVM90, the software will be in full public release and even better. This new software added the much anticipated ability to have it set your distances and time align and phase align your speakers. I cannot overstate how powerful this is in the resulting audio performance. The result is extremely impressive. In room correction, the quality of the microphone also has a big effect on the end result. The AVM90 comes with the same improved microphone as the AVM70. They even designed it to be directional so it can be better calibrated based on how we hear facing forward in our seats. The new microphone is a step up from the prior one, is beefier, and has a little indicator you point towards the front of the room. I cover how to get the most out of the new version of Arc Genesis in our setup video that we send to all customers. I cover it in great detail in that video, but we also want to make sure our customers have the best sounding systems possible. So if you bought your Anthem from us and have questions on tweaking the audio or even want us to look at your Arc file, feel free to reach out and we'd be glad to help. I'm most excited about the tech Anthem is using in the new version of Arc Genesis to blend the subwoofers with your speakers. It's pretty easy to use a tape measure to get the distances correct on your main speakers, but nailing subwoofer blending has been a task that can take some real work. Most subs had some delay through their built-in digital signal processing, and it was a bit of trial and error in the past to get them aligned properly. It makes such a massive difference in the sound that I made a video just on how to calibrate multiple subs together. If you decide to buy the AVM90, you can just skip my video on it, as Arc Genesis now makes this simple and goes a step further by looking at the phase response of both your main speakers and your subs, and time and phase aligns them into one cohesive unit. Honestly, I was really not sure how well this was going to work until I installed the AVM90 into my own home. I have 4 subs in my house, and I had previously manually time aligned them prior to getting the AVM90 because I did not have 4 independent sub outs like the AVM90 has. Historically, if you wanted more than 2 independent sub outs, you were likely spending over $20,000 on a processor. This AVM90 has it. I've now compared the results of 1, manually calibrating the subs myself, 2, using a mini DSP to manage my 4 subs, and finally, the AVM90 with Arc Genesis to calibrate them. I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised that letting the AVM90 do all the calculations and adjustments was the clear winner. With its 1.6 gigahertz dual-core DSP with 64-bit floating point computation with dual precision filter states, the AVM90 is just a powerhouse in terms of being able to do the calculations and real-time equalization and phase alignment of all the speakers. I tested several clips from our video of the top 10 best Atmos movies, including the famous first race scene in Ready Player One. I've demoed this clip hundreds of times, if not thousands. I was shocked at how tightly every crash and boom tightened using the AVM90. I also tested this in Atmos music, especially with our #1 rated song called Boom by Tiesta. It is amazing Atmos mastering and also complex and deep bass. This setup just beat every other setup I've had. I did find that if you want to go true audiophile level, you may want to tweak the room gain and deep bass after Arc is run, but I walked through that in our setup video for Arc Genesis. We have some best practices that we find work with most systems for tweaking your Arc file. One point I make in our setup guide is that in general, you want to make any changes to the audio in the Arc Genesis program instead of going into the web setup menu. The reason is that Arc Genesis is able to adjust all the calculations and calibration across all the speakers together if you, for instance, tell it to increase deep bass response. This leads to a more cohesive sound adjustment versus just going into your web menu and increasing the gain, for instance, on your subs. And speaking of subwoofers, Arc Genesis gives you the option to run your main speakers full range and then send bass to a subwoofer at the same time for those audiophiles who prefer their left and right speakers to just roll off naturally. I don't recommend this for most situations because you're adding more bass than is intended and can negatively impact the low frequency reproduction, but it's available if you want it. Now, let's talk about some of the reasons the AVM90 sounds so great. The AVM90 uses the ESS Sabre 9038 Pro high-end audiophile DACs for all 19 channels. These are capable of 32-bit 768 kHz decoding. It's important to note that just having great DACs does not create great sound by itself. You need to surround the DACs with a great implementation and electronics. One of the advantages of the delay in the shipments of the AVM90 is that they really got to nail the audio circuitry, including 0.1% high precision resistors, top of the line linear regulators, and pretty much everything they could to maximize performance. I'll digress here a bit, but one of my all-time favorite surround sound processors from a pure audio standpoint was the Class A SSP 800, which I had in my own system for some time. It just sounded like a high-end piece of 2-channel gear. Interestingly enough, a few of the team at Anthem used to be associated with Class A and also had their own personal SSP 800s to compare the test samples they did when developing the revised AVM90. They totally nailed the audio in the AVM90 as to both me and my colleagues at Anthem who had Class A SSP 800s. We all agreed that the AVM90 has surpassed the SSP 800 in pure audio performance. If you're considering either the AVM70 or AVM90 and plan to use your home theater for music listening, you will definitely appreciate the great DACs and sound in both of these units. But the AVM90 is a jump up in audiophile performance. Anthem processors have always done a fantastic job at spatial imaging. They can locate effects in precise positions with special effects panning across the room, sounding totally natural. With the better DAC integration and improved power supplies, the AVM90 got even better. In my listening tests, it could float effects with pinpoint accuracy all over my home theater sound field. In testing demo clips like The Matrix and A Quiet Place, I was most shocked at how much improvement there was in the spatial imaging in the room over all other processors I've had. When you improve all of the audio chain and you simultaneously improve the room calibration and alignment of every speaker, it manifests itself into just way better spatial imaging, which the AVM90 delivers in spades. I know a lot of you watching this are probably considering both the AVM70 and AVM90. The primary question comes down to whether the AVM90 is worth enough more for your situation than the AVM70. Honestly, for most people, the AVM70 will be a great fit and offer excellent sound and spatial imaging. But if you love music or just want the best sound and movie experience, the AVM90 is a step up sonically and spatially. Another scenario where you would want the AVM90 over the AVM70 is if you have more than 2 subwoofers and you want the advantage of Arc Genesis blending them perfectly into your system. Do not underestimate the difference this can make if you have more than 2 subs. Finally, if you have the budget and you love great audio and you have more than 2 subs, you'd be crazy not to get the AVM90. The upshot is that the AVM90 is a fabulous processor. In fact, the greatest compliment I can give it is that I've decided to keep the AVM90 in my personal theater. That should tell you my perspective. If you're trying to decide whether the AVM90 is the right fit for you, feel free to give us a call or chat with us at audioadvice.com or just stop by one of our award-winning showrooms. We'd be happy to help you figure out what is best for your personal situation. In addition to our price guarantee, we also offer free 2-day shipping and lifetime support. If you're thinking about upgrading your theater, check out our home theater page at audioadvice.com, where we have our free home theater design tool, buyer's guides, how-to videos, an inspiration gallery, and basically everything home theater related. If you enjoyed this video and want others like it, click like and subscribe. If you then click the notify button, you'll be notified when we launch reviews of cutting-edge products like this and other great home theater content. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.